I spent a great deal of my life as a professional veterinary technician. Of course, I love animals, so animal health was a natural fit for me. There were days that it was the best job. Some days were amazing in that you'd help bring someone's pet back from the brink of death, or help them recover from complicated surgeries. Those were the days you remembered. But there were other days that aren't so great. Dogs and cats don't live as long as we do, so aging and death are just part of the trade-off for all the good times spent with pets. It sucks, and if you've ever had to put your pet to sleep at the vet, you know how hard it is to walk through those doors and say goodbye. It's hell on the staff, too. We make connections with these dogs and cats, or horses, or birds, or whatever our patients are. We see a lot of death. Some of it's expected, a natural part of life process, and some of it is sudden and traumatic. Those are the hard days you wish you really could forget. And then there was this day. It had been a busy morning, and while we took staggered lunch breaks, we were all expected to be back at the same time. We used the back door of the hospital closest to the employee parking lot. The back door led through a long hallway towards the center of the hospital that had a desk. This is where we'd sit and catch up, waiting for the afternoon appointments to arrive. From the back door, you could see straight to that desk and anyone sitting there. You'd walk down one side of the hallway, and on the other side was a long glass window at about waist height where you could look into the surgery room. Beneath that window was a very long table, and tucked under the long table was a rolling gurney. That day, when I walked into the hospital through the back door, I could see my coworker Dan sitting at the desk. He looked up as I walked in, and I waved and started towards the desk. He was getting ready to say something when he looked down, and that's when I saw it. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. A small, jet black creature with wings came out of the floor just in front of the gurney and skittered over it and under the table. I looked back at Dan, who was looking in the same direction with his mouth wide open. He stared back at me. "What the hell was that?" "You saw that?" I asked. "What the hell was that?" he asked again. "Oh my God, if you saw it, then it was real." We both made a wide circle around the hallway and peered under the table. Nothing. There was nothing there. Nothing we could see, at least. It had been there, and now it was just gone. What we had seen was small, about the size of a small monkey. It had wings like dragon wings, and was all black, no lightness at all. Dan described it to me just as I had seen it. We hadn't imagined it. It was terrifying, what you'd imagine from a horror movie. I don't know what it was or why we saw it. We never saw it again. Maybe it had something to do with all the death. Or maybe we saw it for some other reason. I don't know, but I do wish I could forget seeing it. I never will, though. I went to college at a big state school on the East Coast. Because dorm space was limited, it was reserved only for freshmen. And who wants to live in a dorm anyway? During the summer before my sophomore year, my friends, we'll call them Sarah and Anne, and I had pooled our cash together looking for a house near campus to rent. The houses nearby were full of students, and the closer you got to the school, the more expensive the rent would be. We all had cars, so we decided to move a little farther from campus to get a good deal on rent. The neighborhoods we were looking in were pretty run down, older houses that had been college rentals for so long nobody really cared about them. Anne and I were driving through one of these neighborhoods and saw a for rent sign in the window. The house was small and bordered a highway exit and some woods. Not ideal, but we were starting to get a little desperate. We were running out of time before classes started. Anne called and left her number with the landlord. As soon as she left her message, her phone rang. "Hello?" "Yes, I just left a message about the house." "Yeah, we're nearby. Can we come now?" She looked at me and smiled as she finished talking. "All right, he's on his way, and he's going to meet us in 30. Maybe your luck's going to change." When he arrived, the landlord unlocked the house and stepped aside. "Go ahead, let me know what you think. I have to make a phone call." He went back to his car. We walked inside and looked around. It was outdated and dingy with old peeling linoleum in the kitchen, about 50 years of paint on the walls, and it smelled faintly of sweat. There were 2 bedrooms on the main floor with their doors facing each other and a bathroom between them. There was a kitchen towards the back of the house and a back door to the yard. From the kitchen, there was a door that led to a large basement bedroom. We tried to make the best of it, but we didn't really like anything about it except for the price. The landlord's asking price was pretty low, and we really needed to find a house before the start of the semester. Fast forward a couple of weeks, we had moved in and were starting to feel settled. Days were getting shorter and classes had just started. This is when things started getting weird. Sarah had the basement bedroom, but was really never home. She had a new boyfriend and spent a ton of time away from the house. We wondered how long it would be until she moved in with him. She was really never home. Anne worked at the local supermarket and worked late hours, and I worked from home answering phones when I wasn't in class. I wore a headset when I took calls, and I started getting a strange, high-pitched sound in the headset. What I noticed was this really only happened when it was a female caller. Sometimes the calls would cut out altogether. That's not something that would happen when it was a man on the other end of the line. It happened often enough that I began to notice the pattern. One night, when I wasn't working, I heard steps going through the kitchen back towards the basement door. I figured Sarah was back for some clothes and popped my head out in my bedroom. "Hey, Sarah!" Silence. I waited. "Sarah?" Nothing. I got a little nervous and made my way to the kitchen. The basement door was shut and there was no light coming around the door. It was dark. I went back to my room and shut the door. I had my phone in hand and was just about to call the cops when I heard the key in the front door. Anne was home. "Hey, I was just texting with Sarah. She's on her way to Sean's parents' house this weekend, so she won't be around." I was relieved. "Oh, he's coming to pick her up?" "No, they're driving now." My gut turned. I told Anne about the sounds I'd heard, and we went to the basement door and opened it. Nothing. We looked down into the blackness. There were no sounds at all. Anne leaned forward into the darkness and flipped on the switch. We went down the stairs and checked the basement. Nothing. This started happening 2 to 3 times a week. Footsteps through the kitchen to the basement door, and always when it was only one of us home alone. We compared notes, always the same. Footsteps through the kitchen to the basement door, then nothing. I tried solving the headphone issue by buying a new set for work calls, but nothing changed. Got to the point that I was worried I might get fired for having a bad phone connection. Then other things started happening. Along with the footsteps, we'd hear doors closing, and we'd find our jewelry moved. I'd leave my rings by the bed at night before sleep and wake up to find them in a pile on the kitchen floor. Anne even found her necklace arranged in a perfect square in the bathtub. One night, when Anne was home alone, she heard a woman crying from what sounded like my room. As she reached my bedroom door, there was a muffled scream and then silence when she opened it. Things were getting really weird, but it all seemed harmless until this one night. We were both home. I was sitting in my room studying, and Anne was in her room across the hallway on her computer. Our doors were open so we could talk without yelling. The house was quiet except for Anne's keyboard tapping. Out of nowhere, there was a huge booming sound coming from directly between the 2 open bedroom doors. It sounded like someone was slamming a basketball fast and hard against the bathroom door between our 2 rooms. We both looked up, eyes wide, at the empty space between the rooms and could see the bathroom door moving beneath the force of each loud crash. There were 4 loud bangs and then silence. We had been frozen in fear until it stopped, and then we jumped up and stepped out into the space where the sounds had been, just booming seconds before. Nothing. Silence. There were new cracks in the wooden bathroom door, though. We hadn't imagined it. Something had hit that door so hard that it cracked the paint and left indents in the wood at about head level. "That's it," I said. I opened my laptop and did what I had been dreading to do for weeks. I Googled the house address, and there it was. A story about a college basketball star who was serving time in prison for having taken the lives of 4 female students in the basement of this house. He had beaten them and left them in the woods behind the house. The police made the connection when a tip led them to this house, where they found the women's jewelry. We called the landlord the next day and told him we were moving out. His response? "Well, you stayed longer than most."